podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, January 17th, 2021. This is episode 1763. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Casper. You deserve a fresh start this year, so reset your rest with supremely comfortable mattresses, bedding, and more from Casper. Go to casper.com/twit1 and use the code TWIT1 for $100 off select mattresses. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy, and it is time, yes, the moment you've all been waiting for. Probably not. To talk about computers, the internet, home theater, I know. Digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo. That's my phone number. If you want to talk high tech with me, I'd love to talk high tech with you. That's what I do. 888-827-5536. Questions, suggestions, manifestos, they're all welcome. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. It's toll-free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada, but outside that area, use Skype, and you should be able to do it toll-free. Toll-free. I think with Skype, you probably can't make the call unless you have Skype credits, but it won't charge you anything, which is, that's the way it is. 888-827-5536. There's a website associated with the show, because, well, I wouldn't want you to have to write anything down while you're busy with your day. So that way we've hired somebody, James DeRufo, to our official scribe to write it all down and put it up on the website. So you don't have to remember anything. In fact, you don't even have to listen to this show. You can just go to the website. I would like you to. You can go to the website, techguylabs.com. And all will be revealed. This is episode 1763. So we divide the site up into shows, each show into hours, each hour into segments, and you can just drill down and find the part you want. You can even, there's a little, button to watch the video at that, or listen to the audio right at that point, which is kind of cool too. techguylabs.com. Washington Post article, kind of an interesting article. As you know, last week after the riot at the Capitol building, Twitter decided this is it. We can't take it anymore. And they banned the President of the United States, who, how many tweets did he have over his 4 years? Something like, was it 50, 60,000 presidential tweets? It really was his primary way of communicating, wasn't it? What's interesting is since the president's tweets have been banned, a study that published in the Washington Post yesterday said that the number of fake claims about the results of the election have gone down 73%. In fact, fake, stuff entirely has gone down 7. It's kind of amazing. It's like and also it's been very quiet. Have you noticed? It's been kind of calm. Misinformation, that's the word they used, dropped dramatically. This is according to Signal Labs. Conversations about election fraud dropped from 2.5 million mentions to 688 mentions across all social, not just Twitter, all social sites. Facebook banned them too, so it's not just Twitter. Snapchat, Instagram, Twitch, Spotify, Shopify, Pinterest, all banned them. So it's all of the above. But then and there's some real question, should these companies have the power to shut up the duly elected president of the United States? That's something we got to deal with. That gives them a lot of power. I mean, they're not, this isn't a First Amendment issue or a censorship issue, really, because they're private companies and they can do what they want. Although I noted the president of Germany, Angela Merkel, and the president of France, Ferdinand Marcos, Macron, said, wow, they let them do that? That shouldn't happen. It should be a law. That's what they do in Germany. They ban, well, for instance, Nazi memorabilia is banned. You can't sell it on eBay in Germany. So, and a number of other leaders, they don't have the First Amendment, you see, in those countries. So there's a law in the United States that the government shall not abridge freedom of speech. We can't make a law saying, well, you know, you can make, there are laws saying you can't advocate violence or sedition and that kind of thing, but you can't make a law saying, well, no tweets. You can't. Only Twitter can do that, which is kind of interesting. Different takes on the same matter. And I'm not sure where I stand on that, to be honest with you. It does worry me that people like Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, and Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, should have, unelected officials should have the power to do this, to deplatform an elected official. On the other hand, they had some exposure. I think their lawyers probably came to them and said, you know, if somebody's advocating violence, you can't leave it up because now you might be exposed. You might be subject to legal action. Okay. It's a tricky problem. You remember diapers.com? Who doesn't? A guy named Mark Lohr founded it. This was many years ago, maybe, I don't know, 15. He founded it as a place to go for parents, new parents, to go to buy things like diapers and, you know, baby bottles and cribs and stuff. Amazon didn't like it. It was a direct competitor. So what Amazon did is they undercut diapers.com, pretty much reducing their business to such a degree that they had to sell, and Amazon bought them. Amazon bought them. I think that's kind of like the kind of thing the antitrust folks are looking at a little bit. You know, undercut your competitor till they have no value, then just snap them up and put them out of business. That's one way to get rid of competition. Mark Lohr, he was mad. Later started, because after that he was really angry, he started something called Jet. Remember this? Jet.com to compete with Amazon. That was after, in 2011, Amazon bought diapers.com for $500 million. Not bad. Laura worked at Amazon for a little while and then created Jet.com, going straight at Amazon. Well, guess what happened? It didn't go so well. So Walmart, which is also a big competitor, maybe a deep pocket competitor to Amazon, bought Jet.com and got Mark Lohr for their e-commerce division. They gave Mark did okay. You know, given that Amazon put him out of business twice. Walmart bought Jet.com for $3.3 billion 5 years ago. $3.3 billion. That's after 15 months of operation. Nice work if you can get it. And they made Mark the head of e-commerce at Walmart. Because, hey, who better, right, than a guy who's gone after him twice? Yeah, it didn't work all that well. And Walmart even tried something like Amazon Prime. You know that? They call it Walmart Plus, $100 a year, grocery delivery. E-commerce went up a lot in the third quarter of last year, but it did for everybody, 80% for Walmart. But only a seventh of the size of Amazon's e-commerce business. And lots of losses for Mark Lohr. So he's departed. He's left. He helped at Walmart, but, you know, so now he's going to try something else. He did diapers.com, Amazon bought it. He did jet.com, Walmart bought it. Between the two of them, almost $4 billion. So, I don't know. He's probably got a few bucks. The next thing, he says, I'm going to do the city of the future. A multi-decade product to build the city of a future supported by, quote, a reformed version of capitalism. It's a new model for society we'll be testing. What is he going to buy, an island? Where's that going to be? He didn't say anything else. One focus, according to those who know, say one focus will be giving everyday citizens direct economic upside in the city's growth. You'll own stock. And Mark says, this is it. This is my lifelong project. This is the thing I care about the most. This is what I'm going to do. Okay. Okay. We'll see. I wouldn't mind living in the city of the future. As long as the internet access is good, I think it'd probably be fun. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. What do you want to talk about? This is your time. Tech time. 888-827-5536. Coming up, Sam Abuelsamid to talk about electric vehicles. We'll talk about space with Rod Pyle, photography with Chris Marquardt, and, of course, your calls. She is, ladies and gentlemen, the unbreakable Kimmy Schaffer. Kimmy, don't take no Schaffer. Hi, Kim, our phone angel. Hello. She answers the phones for you. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Did you go to church this morning?
Did I have time?
No. This is your church.
This is
you can
my
pray
church.
to the gods of technology.
I guess I could have gone at 7 this morning.
Well, if you really cared, you would have.
That didn't happen.
No. It's hard to get up that early, I admit.
No,
yeah.
This is my sleeping.
Yeah, I don't think you're allowed.
8:40.
I don't think you're allowed to go to church in the area we're in.
No,
we're
you can't.
purple.
You can only do virtual church.
We're purple here. So, but that's okay because here I give a little sermon. We don't pass the collection plate, so that's okay. We talk about technology. We worship at the seat of technology. Yeah. Communion. I commune with my IBM PC. Who should I talk to?
Let's go to Montreal. Let's go to line 3 with Jacob.
Love Montreal.
Montreal.
Thank you, Kim. Hello, Jacob. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Yes.
Hey.
Yes. Greetings to you. I'm glad I didn't realize I spoke with a phone angel, but anyway.
That was the phone angel.
Yeah,
hey, do I say bonjour hi to you?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Bonjour hi to you.
Bonjour hi.
Well, listen, speaking of another language, let me ask you something on the computer front that's related to that, and that is Linux.
Oh, I love to talk about Linux.
Yeah. Linux is the other language, so to speak. But now I did speak to you about this a while ago, but I wanted to ask you a question about compatibility. I know that Microsoft has a program that, that I think it's part of the OS that checks if your hardware is compatible and finds, drivers for it. So I wonder, is there anything similar with Linux? Is there a program that I can run that will determine whether or not my hardware will work properly?
Oh, that's a good question. Generally, so let me just fill in some gaps for people who are going, what is he talking about? We all know about macOS and Microsoft Windows. But there are other operating systems out there. An operating system is the thing that's always running on your computer that lets you run other programs, look at files, that kind of thing. The operating system that is third in line, number one's Windows, 90% of market share. Then there's Apple with about 8 or 9% of market share. Then there's this thing called Linux with maybe 1 or 2% of market share. Although, if you go out on the internet, if you're surfing the internet, most of the machines most of the websites that you're going to are running on Linux boxes. So it's very popular for infrastructure, things like that. Linux is a free open source operating system, so you can mess with it, you can change it, and that's given rise to a number of flavors of Linux, or distributions, actually many distributions. They're all based on the official Linux kernel. That's the heart of the matter. And then on top of that are installers, programs, desktop environments, different ways of looking, and it's very customizable. That's one of the reasons people like it. Linux will run on most PC hardware with some exceptions. A little harder on a Mac, but you can get it going. And you nailed it. The issue is drivers. So if you have a PC, there's 2 ways to check. First thing I would do, if you're considering buying one or if you've got one, is Google Linux and the exact model of the laptop. There are a number of sites that will tell you, okay, this will work, but maybe, and things like the fingerprint reader might not, or you'll need to get this.
But can I just ask you a quick question on this point? Okay, mine's not a laptop; it's a desktop.
Same
I put
thing.
It together myself.
Oh, you put it together. All right. So if it's not something you can look up like that, then the next thing is all the versions, all the different distributions of Linux offer what they used to call a live CD, but it's essentially you can put it on a USB key and boot it up and try it without installing it. Run it off.
I did that.
So then you can see, does my graphics card work? Does the mouse work? You can see if everything works. Did it work?
Well, it did and it didn't. I'm just trying to find a simpler way, that is to run a particular program. It scans my PC and it will tell me this is.
Yeah, there's not. To my knowledge, there's not such a thing, and that's because Linux isn't any one thing. So that's the problem, and different distributions might have different drivers. My experience. So tell me just a couple of things. What's the graphic? Do you have a graphics card?
Yeah. I mean, basically, the items are my motherboard Asus Deluxe USB 3.1, the Strix GeForce 980 NVIDIA video card, and my keyboard and mouse are.
You should have no problem. You should have no problem.
Okay, but my keyboard and mouse, though.
That doesn't matter. Those are all very standard. They don't even have drivers on Windows. Keyboards and mouse are standard USB.
No, but mine is the Corsair gaming keyboard, the KN95 and the M65.
So some features like the changing the light color and things like that may not be available. The thing about Linux is it's enthusiast driven. Corsair may or may not have made a driver for it. In many cases, these companies don't bother. It's too small a market. But guarantee you, there are enthusiasts who have this device who say, well, I want mine to work, who will write the drivers. So in many cases, it'll be able to work. You know, if you tried the live boot and it worked okay, and did the Corsair work?
Yeah, it worked in what I call the BIOS mode, which is like reddish color or white color.
It's a basic mode.
Yeah, the basic mode works. Yeah, that's right.
So you can search to see if there's a Linux Corsair driver. They may offer another one. Now, as for programs, Windows programs don't run out of the box because Windows is a different operating system. They have different expectations. But in every case, there's a good open source analog. There's a good open source Office, for instance, LibreOffice. But,
okay. So just on this point, let me ask you one last question.
Sure.
I came across this post recently about Linux, and the guy was literally lambasting it, saying that most programs that are available for Windows, and there are very good programs like the multimedia stuff, is not available for Linux. And he said that the stuff that is available is, as he put it, written by children for children.
Well, he's wrong.
Kind of stuff.
He's completely wrong. So I disagree with him 100%. So, yeah, I mean, it's not Windows. It's going to be different. There's another thing to look into called Wine, W-I-N-E, which is a Windows emulator, which lets you run many Windows apps under Linux. I think Linux is a great candidate. I have no problem. So it really comes, that's what it comes. Oh, he's gone. That's what it comes down to. That's all it comes down to. What do you want to talk about today, Samuel?
Oh. To discuss BrightDrop.
Right, I see it behind you, BrightDrop. Okay.
Yes.
Is it a FedEx electric van?
It's, well, the first ones are going, FedEx is the first customer, but this is the new GM business unit that they announced at CES this week.
Ooh,
their commercial electric vehicles business unit.
Good. Nice. Nice.
The EV600 is launching later this year, and it'll have about 250 miles of range. And they set up this dedicated business unit just for commercial vehicles, to service those customers' fleets and so on that need these kinds of vehicles. And it also incorporates all the telematics to do fleet management and monitor the vehicles and determine when they need service, that sorts of thing. And they also have these little EP1 electric pallets. They're
cool.
motorized electric pallets.
Oh, that's cool.
That they can use to move stuff around. They're going to have a version of the van that the side flips down. The pallets can roll on, roll off really easily, so it goes up and down. So it can drop the side down to the sidewalk, roll the pallets off, roll them back on, stick them. It raises up. You stick them inside. Quick.
That's
quick
cool.
Loading and unloading.
That's good. No more beer trucks parked in the middle of the median in our downtown. We'll have more of the Tech Guy Show in just a bit, but first a word from my sponsor, my mattress company, Casper. I just bought another Casper the other day, actually. Actually got the whole set for my daughter. She moved into a new place, little housewarming gift. It's nice to have a nice, clean, fresh mattress, and Caspers are so affordable. I got her the frame, the box spring, the mattress, even got her a set of Casper sheets. Very affordable price. Casper is the sleep company. I think Casper makes the best mattresses you can get. And I think they make them at a very affordable price. They're obsessively engineered. They sleep cool. They're supportive and yet soft. Nice combination of soft and yet supportive. Only Casper mattresses are made with 86, you can count them, supportive gel pods to align your spine, eliminate aches and pains. I didn't even know this. I just know it's comfortable, right? It's supportive comfort. You need to wake up refreshed and ready to go all year long. Now, we have the Wave Hybrid. That's perfect for people who have aches and pains and want a mattress with maximum support and cooling. Cooling is important. You don't want to sleep hot. You want to make sure that you sleep a little bit cooler than your actual daytime temperature. It helps you sleep. For the most plush mattress, oh, this one sounds nice. I might have to get one of these. The Nova Hybrid. A plush feel, again, that doesn't sacrifice support. Or the one I got my daughter, the most popular original mattress for sleepers who want both support and cooling. She loves it. I love it. Our whole family sleeps on Caspers. Their best-selling original Casper pillow, I curl myself around the Casper King pillow every night. I love it. It's made with a unique pillow and pillow design, soft on the outside but supportive on the inside for all-night comfort. I can't sleep without my Casper pillow. Casper makes everything you need to refresh your whole bedroom this year, from their super soft percale sheets, I'll vouch for that, they're really nice, to their all-season down duvets, to their cozy, calming weighted blanket. Yeah, they have a weighted blanket, too. As always, Casper offers free shipping and free returns with no contact delivery. And I love it that you get 100 nights to try it out. If at any time you don't like it, you call them up, they'll come, they'll take it away, and they'll refund you every penny. Make 2021 a great year to sleep better. I think we should all sleep better, shouldn't we? Now's the time. Reset your rest by going to casper.com/twit1. Use the code TWIT1 for $100 off select mattresses. The offer code is TWIT and the number 1. And you get $100 off select mattresses. Terms and conditions apply. See casper.com for more details. Casper. And now back to the show we go. It's time for our car guy. Sam Abuelsamid is a principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights. He's a podcaster. His Wheel Bearings podcast for automotive freaks is at wheelbearings.media. Joins us every week to talk high tech. And he's visiting from the virtual CES today. Hello, Sam. How was the GM keynote?
It was actually kind of interesting. They were one of the few, at least transportation or automotive companies that actually had some real news. That was kind of a surprise. It's amazing that this year I think was the first CES I've been to where I didn't miss a single meeting.
What?
No waiting in lines for taxis or lifts, and
no delays.
Yeah, everything was on time.
Nice. And you can even have a little sandwich while you're at your meeting because you're at home.
That's right.
Yeah. Virtual CES.
And if I missed a press conference, I could just hit play, play it on demand.
Nice. So what did we learn? Anything interesting? What's new?
Yeah. So GM was one of the few automakers that had a really big virtual presence at CES this year. They did an hour-long presentation on Tuesday morning. And, a lot of it was reiterating a lot of the stuff that they've been talking about with electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles and their Ultium battery system, things that we've talked about here on the show over the past year or so.
Yeah.
But they did actually have some big news that they dropped, which is, and this came just a couple of days after they unveiled their new logo. They unveiled a second new logo for a new business unit that they're forming called BrightDrop. So BrightDrop is their new electric commercial vehicles business unit. It's focused on, as you might guess, commercial vehicles, big cargo vans, delivery vans, and other vehicles yet to be shown to the world. And behind me on the screen is what they're calling the EV600, which is their new delivery van. And this is kind of a direct competitor to the vans that Rivian, another EV startup, is building for Amazon. And Amazon's going to start getting the first of theirs either late this year or early in 2022. In fact, there was just earlier this week, somebody spotted one of the prototype Rivian Amazon vans making deliveries in somewhere in the Los Angeles area.
Really? Already?
Posted that online.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a prototype, but it's running around, it's making deliveries, and this is a similar size van. This is a big delivery van, like the ones we see already that deliver our FedEx and UPS packages in terms of size. It's going to have a 250-mile range. The first ones, as I said, the first ones are going to FedEx, and they will get those starting late this year. And then in early 2022, it'll be available to everybody. One of the but the BrightDrop is not just about these vans. They're calling it a full electric commercial vehicle ecosystem. So they're incorporating their OnStar technology to do telematics and tracking of where the vehicles are. So if you've got a package coming, you'll be able to see exactly where it is on the map on your phone, and fleet managers can see where the vehicles are, see what the state of charge is, scheduling charging for these vehicles and so on. They had a video that they showed, which showed renders of some different configurations of these. So it'll be like cutaways. So you'll at some point in the next few years, you'll probably see some of these with the back replaced by the typical type of airport shuttle you see. See those being used in that application.
Interesting. Self-driving? No, just electric.
No, not yet. Not yet. But they did show one with what they call their rapid load vehicle concept. And actually the first product from BrightDrop is actually not this van, but it's going to be something they call the EP1, which is an electric pallet that people in warehouses and delivery drivers can use. It's motorized and can move up to 3 miles an hour, and automatically adapts to the operator's walking pace.
Wait a minute. So this gets whatever's on the van, unloads it, pulls it out, and then walks along next to the driver to bring it to the store to unload?
Yeah, it's more that you can load these up in the warehouse, load up the pallets, and then you load them onto the van. They quick load onto the van. So instead of loading all the individual packages, you load these little pallets on there, and then the side of the van drops down and it lowers down a platform.
And
so
he
you can
pull out
roll the pallets on there.
When he gets to your house, he pulls out your package.
Yeah, it lifts up. Yeah,
nice.
This would be more, for places where they're making a lot of delivering a whole bunch of articles rather than for individual homes.
Yeah, there's always a beer or soft drink truck parked downtown in the middle of the 3-lane street, unloading, boxes, crates of beer or soda pop.
Right.
So that would be for
with
them.
something like this. Yeah, they can load up these pallets, and then they can talk, connect them together basically, and one operator can bring along 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these, and they can quickly load and unload from that. So it's not taking up curb space for nearly as long. A lot of interesting concepts they're working on with this.
I wonder, it might be more lucrative for these companies to develop commercial vehicles than it is to develop vehicles for individuals. I bet you that's the case, right?
Yeah, and the other thing is for the commercial customers, a lot of companies, a lot of big fleet operators are looking much more closely at electrification and starting to move much more aggressively into electrification now, because for them it actually makes a lot more economic sense than it does for individual consumers. An individual buying an electric car, you're going to have some savings in fuel costs, but given most people drive 10, 15,000 miles a year at most, most. And the cost, the operating cost savings are not going to be nearly as much given the premium you pay for the vehicle. But for commercial operators, one of these vans that's powered by a gas or a diesel engine, I was recently testing a Ford Transit with a gas engine, and it was getting about 13 miles per gallon.
Right, that's expensive.
When you're going from 13 miles per gallon to electric, now you're saving some big bucks in operating expenses. And these vans are often doing anywhere from 50 to 100,000 miles a year.
Wow.
So that adds up much faster. So commercial operators, now that there's going to be a lot of choices for electric commercial vehicles, they're really looking heavily at these. That's why Ford is doing the e-Transit later this year and the electric F-150 for their commercial customers primarily, rather than for consumers.
Oh, really? Yeah, because we were thinking about getting an electric F-150 next year when it comes out.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be able to buy one. But
you will.
The target market is really the commercial customers.
Yeah. Fleet sales are always easier for the company to make. Yeah, and when you look at companies like FedEx and Amazon, logistics is a big part of their overall costs. If they can reduce the cost of getting the package from the warehouse to the customer significantly, and they're trying to do that. I know Amazon just bought a bunch of a fleet of airplanes.
And they've ordered 100,000 vans from Rivian.
Wow.
They expect to have 10,000 in operation by the end of next year. And they, I think, as of the end of 2020, they had about 30,000 vehicles in their fleet.
Holy cow.
And they've ordered 100,000 electric vans.
Yeah, to some degree, Amazon's really a logistics company as much as an online commerce company. It's all about logistics. And certainly FedEx is 100% logistics. Really interesting. So CES was a good CES, even though you couldn't go to Las Vegas this year.
It was a decent CES. There wasn't as much stuff as I would normally get.
Usually
CES.
the North Hall is
a lot of companies didn't participate.
Full of automotive accessories and new vehicles and all sorts of stuff. It's so much fun. I always love the North Hall at CES.
But I did have a pretty busy week of calls this week with a lot of different companies.
You're doing it for us. Thank you. Sam Abuelsamid, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights. Listen to his podcast at wheelbearings.media. And, of course, listen to him right here every week. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Leo.
Yeah, that's I like seeing that because I don't, those diesel trucks pollute like crazy. It'd be nice to get them off the road.
Oh yeah, and especially in urban areas.
Yeah.
These, they're using a lot of fuel, polluting a lot, and so shifting those over to electric is going to make a huge difference. It's going to have a lot more impact than just people buying electric cars.
Yeah, right. Very exciting.
Yeah,
that's cool. Chevy's GM, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Chevrolet, GMC, Buick, and Cadillac.
So we already have a GM vehicle.
Well, the other interesting thing is just yesterday, they made the Bright Drop announcement on Tuesday, but they didn't say where the vans were going to be built. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, they announced that they're converting their Ingersoll, Ontario plant, where they build the Equinox now, over to electric to build this thing. So that means now that's 4 plants that by the beginning of 2022, 4 GM plants that are building electric vehicles. The Orion, Michigan plant where they build the Bolt, the Detroit Hamtramck plant where they're building the Hummer and the Cruise Origin, the Spring Hill, Tennessee plant where they're going to build the Cadillac Lyriq, and now Ingersoll. And there's probably going to be at least one more that's announced in the next few months.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a lot of commitment to EVs.
Especially since customers, the non-commercial, the individual sales are not great, right? I mean,
they obviously dropped last year, because of the pandemic and the economic conditions. But even before that, the North American market was getting pretty saturated. Growth was expected to be relatively flat through most of this decade.
Right.
And so, the commercial sector is where, some of these companies are expected to actually see some significant growth, with more and more reliance on deliveries from e-commerce. This is a big market especially for companies like Ford and GM.
Interesting.
And also for Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes sells a lot of Sprinters into the commercial vehicle fleet.
Electric Sprinter. That would be cool. I wouldn't mind that. That'd be fun.
And Fiat Chrysler sells a lot of Ram ProMasters. Although, actually, they're no longer Fiat Chrysler. They are now Stellantis.
What?
Yeah, as of yesterday, they closed their merger with PSA, the parent company of Peugeot and Citroën.
Oh, interesting.
And so the parent company is now called Stellantis.
Is Peugeot now the biggest car manufacturer?
No. So Stellantis is fourth largest behind Volkswagen, Toyota, and the Renault-Nissan alliance.
Right. Wow. None of the big three are in that list. That's kind of amazing.
Well, I mean, Chrysler is. I mean, they're part of Stellantis.
That's right.
Yeah, and GM, GM, and then Hyundai and Hyundai Motor Group. One of the interesting things I noticed yesterday in the announcement, they said as of Monday they're going to start trading. The Stellantis is going to start replace FCA and PSA, and their stock ticker is STLA. Tesla's stock ticker is TSLA.
Oy, oy, oy.
I don't think that's a coincidence.
If you're a dyslexic investor, you're in trouble.
I bet that Stellantis' stock is going to spike on Monday and Tuesday when a lot of Robinhood traders accidentally buy that instead of TSLA.
Got to run. Thank you, Sam. Have a great week.
Talk
Stay
to you later,
safe.
Leo.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Expressing myself. I'm the tech guy. 88. Ask Leo. Glenda on the line from Orange County, California. You're next, Glenda. Hi.
Hi, Leo.
Welcome.
I probably have the easiest question today.
Everybody says that, and then they're hard. So, okay, I won't get my hopes up. Go ahead.
I need a phone with a really good camera. So
that is easy.
Phone.
That is easy.
You get asked probably every week.
Yeah, just don't ask me for a $200 phone with a really good camera. Yeah, I know. You didn't like that.
You may have to give me 2 or 3 choices.
You didn't like that answer. All of the, they call them flagship phones from Apple, Samsung, Motorola, well, maybe not Motorola so much, Google, all have excellent cameras. In fact, the three best camera phones out there are the Apple iPhone 12 Pro, the Samsung. Well, now it's the S21, the Galaxy S21 is the latest version, but the S20 is the same camera. And Google's Pixel 5, which actually has the same camera as the Pixel 4. Those are all amazing cameras. They have different all of these phones are doing what we call computational photography. The lenses on these phones are not great lenses, but they're good enough. Usually around 12 megapixels, sometimes more. The S21, I think, is much more. But the quality of they're plastic. The quality of the image isn't great. But what they do have is a very powerful computer inside that can take the information that lens gives it and turn it into a great picture. But in order to do that, they make decisions about what a great picture is. And so Samsung, for instance, the colors tend to be more bright. Pixel's colors are more natural, more subdued, that kind of thing. But that's all kind of, what do I like? That's all subjective. That's a matter of taste. All three of them are very good. Now, there is the best deal right now would probably be, do you care if it's Android or iOS?
I don't care.
Okay.
I mean, I usually use Android, but
good. So if you
need one, I have to do this for artwork.
Oh, nice. So you could take pictures of the art
that I'm making, of the art, and then post it.
Okay. So I think then you should look at Google's Pixel phones. Right now, the prices are very good on what they call last year's Pixel phones, but ironically, they have the same cameras as this year's Pixel phones. So I would look at the Pixel 4a, which starts at $349. Is that a little closer to your price range?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, it could be more than that.
Well, if work is going to pay for it,
yes,
then I would go. Honestly, the Pixels are in some cases better than the iPhones. So I think you'd be just great with last year's Samsung Galaxy phone, last year or even this year's Google Pixel phone, the Pixel 4 or 5, Apple's iPhone 12, very good. So any of those three. Now, the Pixels, last year's Pixels tend to be less expensive because they're last year's, but the cameras are the same. So I'm going to stand by the 4A, or if you can spend a little bit more, let me see if they still sell the 4. No, they don't. So then get the Pixel 5, and the Pixel 5, which I think probably has the most natural color and so forth. And since you're already an Android user, that starts at $700. And I think that's a really nice phone. I think you'd be very happy with that, especially since you're used to Android.
Okay, but if the Samsung is brighter, because I took a picture with my Samsung, I don't know, 9 Plus the other day, and he said it was awful.
Yeah, they oversaturate, not brighter, but oversaturated. So if he doesn't like it, he'll like the Pixel better, because the Pixel is much more natural. If you look, and you can go online and look at actual images, reviews. Like if you just search for something like the Pixel 5 versus the iPhone 12 versus the Samsung S21, you'll see, and look at the sky, for instance. In some, the sky is so blue, it just looks unnatural. And in the Pixel phones, it tends to be closest to the actual color. They don't oversaturate. They don't mess with it. Apple messes with it a little bit too. And Apple on the latest iPhone has some color cast problems that I think are unusual. These aren't low light pictures. You're not doing this in the dark. These are, you're going to have the artworks are lit, right? Decently.
Yeah, but not hugely. But yeah.
But they're yeah. So the reason I asked, the iPhone has probably the best low light photography, but low light means, you know, in a darkened room, you're not, or at night, you're not doing that. So I think for you, I would probably say the Pixel 5 would be your best camera choice.
Okay, thank you.
But you could review pictures and see, you know which one. Because, as I said, there's a lot of subjective taste involved in the decisions they make. Now, one thing that is the case, both the iPhone and the Pixel, you can get camera apps, third-party camera apps, that give you more control over the developing. They shoot in RAW, and then you can decide how much color you want. And so, you know, you're not stuck with the decisions they make. But generally, people just want to take a picture with a camera and send it off. And that sounds like what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This is a good time to buy. I mean, honestly, these phones are so good now that I think they pretty much ended the point and shoot camera business. Most people just don't bother anymore. I don't need a point and shoot. The high-end professional cameras, the DSLRs, the Canon R5 and R6, these cameras give you a lot more creative control, much better lenses. They're thousands of dollars more. You know, they're a big investment. So I don't think we're yet to the point where camera phones are replacing those. But boy, they're pretty much as good a camera as you need for probably 90% of the things you do, you shoot. And I guess I'm a fan of the Pixel. I think they do the best job. Jeff, Portland, Oregon is next. Hi, Jeff. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hello, Leo.
Hello, Jeff.
So don't you love it when you wake up and you get a blue screen on your computer that says your PC run into a problem?
Oh,
and it says, if you call a support person, give them this information. Stop code. Thread stuck.
No. Don't give them that information. They can't do anything with it. And you know how long that is? Yeah, no, they can't do anything with it. So you're sitting there looking at a blue screen of death, a BSOD, right?
Well, it's not all blue. There's a lot of white.
Which version of Windows are you running?
As is Windows 10.
10. Okay. Have you tried rebooting just to see if it goes away?
Oh, yes. I even was able to get into the part where it says reboot this PC and restore it to its original operating system. That's the other problem is this is an old HP 2014 model, but it is a touch screen. So I thought it would be worth restoring.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that. We haven't made so many advances in the last 5 or 6 years. Used to be every year there was a lot faster processor. Intel's been kind of falling behind in that regard. Usually what that means, it's very rare to get that these days, and it only happens if either there is a device driver that's broken somehow or big parts of the operating system are screwed up. Have you tried getting into safe mode? Do you know how to get into safe mode?
Oh, yes. I got into safe mode, too, and it...
Was it able to run in safe mode?
Well, maybe I didn't get into safe mode.
If you can get in safe mode to the...
I wanted to drop an SSD into it.
Yeah, this would be a good time to start over.
The other problem was that I noticed the tag on the bottom said that originally came with
Doesn't matter.
Windows 8.
Doesn't matter. Once you've activated Windows 10 on that machine, Microsoft says they call it entitled, and you don't need a serial number or anything. You can just install Windows 10 on top of it. So, yeah, that's a great time to get a new hard drive. SSD will be much faster. And just install a fresh copy of Windows. I hope you have a good backup of your data, but that's a great way to go. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. You might be able to, if you don't have a good backup, you might be able to take the old drive, put it in an enclosure, and still read the data off of it. Just because it can't boot doesn't mean the data's not there. Just depends what happened.
I got the data backed up fine.
Beauty. Then this is so. In fact, this is a great opportunity because an SSD is going to take that 2014 machine and make it feel like it's brand new.
Oh yeah.
They're so much faster. So
where do I download the Windows 10 from?
Microsoft offers it. It's if you search for or Google Microsoft Media Creation Tool, they'll ask you what version of Windows 10, and you download it and put it on a USB key. To do this, you'll need another computer. Do you have another one?
Yes.
Yeah. You put it on a USB key, and then you'll go into BIOS on that old machine and say boot from the, you change the boot order. Sometimes just pressing a function key will give you that boot order menu. Change the boot order so it boots to the USB drive. It'll boot into a Windows installer.
Yeah, well, what I did is I had a desktop that I put an SSD in, and I had a Samsung.
Oh, you've done this before. All right.
Their cloning, it went smooth as glass, but I now have a Kingston SSD. That you can't use that Samsung software to do that, can you?
No, but Kingston offers, so everybody who makes SSDs or hard drives of any kind usually has software that'll do this. But you don't want to clone it.
Okay.
Honestly, that's probably not what you want to do. You're going to clone the problem. What you really want to do is put the SSD in, it's blank, start the machine up from that nice new fresh USB installer, and let it install onto that. And again, because you installed Windows 10 once on it, it's already in the Microsoft database. It should authenticate immediately. You shouldn't have any.
Even though it originally came with Windows.
Yeah, it doesn't care. Yeah, because you did the upgrade to Windows 10. So what Microsoft does now is they have a database that basically is this is your machine. This is Jeff's machine, and it has this motherboard, this, and okay, yeah, that's Jeff again. So authenticate it. It's called an entitlement.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is gonna be actually a massive improvement. As long as you got your data, you're golden.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime, Jeff. Take care. Susie, yeah, we've done this many, many times. So even if you go now to techguylabs.com, you'll find it. The most important thing, Susie, is to make sure you've got a backup of your data, because you can install on top of the old version, but if you're like Jeff, where you've got a malfunctioning hard drive and you're replacing it, you want to make sure you have all your stuff backed up first. Yeah, and then the chat room can help you. It's really straightforward. There'll be a link on the website to the media creation tool. You'll get the latest version of Windows 10. Microsoft has instructions for putting it on a USB key. That's the trickiest part. Then you'll have to tell your computer to start up not from the internal hard drive but from the USB key. Yeah, that's why as far as I can tell, I don't think there's a big difference in the cameras in the S21 and the S20, so this would be a good time to get an S20. Absolutely. That's what I was saying. Okay, perfect. When you put the new SSD in, keep the old hard drive, because you might be able to put that in a USB enclosure and get some of your data off of it. So you don't have a complete backup. There you go. Yeah. There's lots of places, but I think we described this probably somewhere on the website. Right. Depends why the drive's not working. A lot of times the drive won't boot. You can't boot up. You get a blue screen. But the other parts of the drive are still okay. Lori Gill got married? Oh, my God. Guess now that she's got a good job, she can afford to get married. That's awesome. I did not know that. That's the one drawback about not being on social. Oh, look at them. So cute. Oh, I'm so happy for her. Oh. Oh. I'll have to bookmark that for MacBreak Weekly. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here. I'm the tech guy. That means it's time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, Windows, Mac, Linux. 8888 Ask Leo. The phone number, 888-827-5536. That's anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you could still call. You just have to use Skype to do it. 8888 Ask Leo. Back to the phones we go. John's on the line from Wisconsin Rapids, Washington. Hello, which is a very confusing name. Hello, John.
Hello, Leo. Actually, Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin, not Washington.
That makes more sense. All right, thank you. We'll put a WI instead of a WA in there. All right.
There you go. There you go. You got a great show.
Thank you.
A multi-part question here. I'm running High Sierra. And you're thinking, oh, my God, are you serious?
Not at all. No, I'm not judgmental like that. No. Okay. No.
So I'm actually going to update to, I'm going to get a Mac Mini 2018, 64 gigs of RAM and 512 gig hard drive. I'm thinking, what do you need that for? Well, here's my question. I'm going to get the new Thunderbolt dock from OWC, which should be released in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I have their old one, and I like it a lot. It's a nice piece of hardware.
Yeah, well, this one has like 11 ports. It's got like 3, I think, Thunderbolt 4.
Yeah,
it's a quite slick little.
But you're not getting the new Mac Mini. You're getting a 2-year-old Mac Mini.
Right, exactly. Right.
And that is because you want 64 gigs of RAM, or?
Well, I wanted 64 gigs of RAM, and what I'm using, I also use Pro Tools. So what I want to do, I want to get a second drive, and I've got a T7 512 gig Samsung drive. It's going to be, everything is not here yet, so I'm just kind of fact finding here.
Yeah.
It's going to be USB-C connection to Thunderbolt. I got the adapter, everything for that. But my question is, can I format that external drive, and can I install Big Sur on that drive?
Yeah, sure.
Now, do I format that as APFS or Mac?
Yeah, I don't know if you'll have a choice, but yeah, you would prefer APFS. That's the new Apple file system.
Right, exactly right.
Did you want to? Did you want to keep High Sierra on the internal drive, or what is the idea?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to get it. No, it's going to be Big Sur. I've got a NAS where I do my time.
So you want to boot? Backup. You want to be able to boot from the external drive? Is that the idea?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, you can put Big Sur on an external drive.
It's going to be on the internal, of course, of the Mac Mini, but then also I use Pro Tools, and I want to use that. I want them separated, basically. I don't want them to,
Has Avid said yet whether they're going to? I mean, I know they would eventually like to support the M1 or the Apple Silicon processors. I see actually Pro Tools does not support Big Sur yet.
And you're absolutely correct on that.
That's not a good sign. Yeah.
A couple of different ways to look at that, I think, Leo, is that some companies come on board too quick with that, and the customers become beta testers, kind of.
Wow. Well, I understand that. Pro Tools, which is used to record music by a lot of big studios, you don't want to mess around with that. You want it to be rock solid.
Really don't.
In fact, I just heard a rumor that Apple might continue to sell an Intel version of its highest-end Mac Pro And I would guess it's exactly for that reason, because there's some people just, I don't want to mess with what I've got. I want to keep it stable. And for instance, you probably do want 64 gigs of RAM with Pro Tools, and you can't do that on the new Apples yet. You will be able to eventually.
No. Well, eventually, yeah. Well, it's going to be an i7 processor with 6 cores.
Yeah.
So, I should be able to do it. And
those Mac Minis are great, by the way. I really like them. In general, my thought is the days of Intel Macs are numbered, and yet you're a perfect example of somebody who's absolutely should not go to Big Sur and Apple Silicon. The tool you use doesn't work on either. So
right. Well, I said somebody said, well, it's a good price for the upgrade. I said, yeah, but if I can't use it, good.
What good? Yeah.
But my question,
and I guess Avid will probably in time do that and all of that, and by that time there'll be high-end Macs on Apple Silicon that'll work with Pro Tools, and that will be the right choice. But you're using this professionally. You're spending a lot of money, obviously. You don't need to have the latest and greatest. You need to have the most reliable, predictable behavior, and I think that's completely sensible.
Yeah, and in this case, the latest is not always the greatest either.
Yeah.
But my question on this, too, is can you use I'm going to get a carbon copy cloner for backups and this kind of stuff. I've got also a Mercury drive with partition 4 times. Well, anyway, that's not the point, but it's a rotational drive. Can you clone Big Sur to a rotational drive?
So, yes, you can. The answer is, in fact, Mike Bombich at Carbon Copy Cloner is the only guy who's really doing this. Super Duper isn't doing it yet. The reason is, for security reasons with Big Sur, Apple's requiring a read-only signed boot partition, and no third-party program yet can write that. So you either have to use Apple's Big Sur installer to create the bootable external drive. There is a program, and I think Mike's figured out how to use this, that Apple offers that will sign the partition too. So he talks about that in his blog at Carbon Copy Cloner. He's figured it out how to do it, but as far as I know, he's the only one who has. So you're picking the right tool to do it if you want to make a bootable backup. And that's, I guess, what you want.
I've been using Super Duper.
Right, and they don't do it yet. I love Super Duper, but SurePocket hasn't figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to do it. It doesn't seem, well, I mean, I can't say it for sure, but but the thing on that is, I use VoiceOver, so the installation is pretty straightforward. I'm able to hear the screen with big deal at all.
And again, this is another reason why you don't want the latest and greatest, because if you want to make sure that everything's working and you can still use it, you don't want to mess around. So I completely support you in staying with whatever you need to stay with to make sure that Pro Tools works, if VoiceOver works, that you're able to get your job done. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
If you read Mike's blog post at bombitch.com, he talks about how he has managed to make a bootable backup for Big Sur, but I think he's one of the few who's figured that one out.
How do you spell Bombich? Is that
B-O-M-B-I-C-H? He's the author of Carbon Copy Cloner.
Bombich.
Bombitch.com/blog. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Leo, thanks for your time. You really answered a lot of questions that I had. And I really appreciate your time on this.
My pleasure, John. Do you make music for yourself or other people?
Yes.
Ah, nice. So are you an engineer, a producer? What do you do? A musician?
Pretty much an engineer, but getting into production.
How exciting. That's great.
I've been retired for almost 4 years. And retirement on a 1 to 10, I'd give it a 20.
Oh, well, if you found something you love to do, which you clearly have.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
And now you got all the time in the world to do it, and you don't have the pressure of having to make a living. It sounds like heaven.
Well, the thing is, I used to be in bands years ago where I had to rely on the music for the money.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I can't.
You get a little tired of playing Rock the Boat for the 500th time at a wedding, I imagine.
Either that or problem.
Hey, a pleasure talking to you, John. Thanks for calling.
You too, Leo. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Yeah, there are a lot of geeks who say, "Oh, you gotta have the latest, the greatest." And in general, I'm very excited about what Apple has done with their new chips. I think the road ahead for Apple Macintosh is very exciting. These new chips are amazing, but especially if you're doing it professionally, you got to make sure all your stuff's going to work. You don't want to be; those are not the early adopters. We geeks, we enthusiasts, we're the early adopters, but it's completely prudent not to be using the latest and greatest if you're not sure if it's going to work. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But on the other hand, and there's always an on the other hand, speed is also important if you're a professional, and so a faster platform, is going to be desirable down the road once they get it so that it works as well as the old one. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I hope I'm still the one. George on the line from Toronto. Hello, George. Did I push the button yet? No, I didn't.
Hi.
Sorry, George. Now you're on. Hi, George.
Hi, Leo. I've been a fan for a very long time. I just have a quick question.
Sure.
Let's say I wanted it to draw something in Microsoft Paint that was, for example, 4 inches by 2 inches, just a simple square, and I wanted it to print it on a piece of paper exactly 4 inches and a 2-inch rectangle printed out.
Right.
How would I achieve the correct dimensions? Because I print all sorts of shapes, nothing comes out correct.
So this is actually a surprisingly complex problem. The size of the image on the screen is really determined by the resolution of the screen. How many dots horizontally and vertically there are, and the resolution of the image you're drawing. And it can be 4 by 4 on the screen, but then when you print, the resolution of the printer will be different, won't it? Because your screen is, typically around 72 dots per inch, but it could be different. And your printer might be 300 dots per inch. So as you can see, if you do a 4 by 4 image at 72 dots per inch and then print it at 300 dots per inch, it's going to be a lot smaller. It's not going to be 4 by 4. So what you want to do, in most cases, you can actually do this in the print driver. So when you launch your print driver, police action in Toronto. It's the new CSI Toronto. When you launch your print driver, there is often and you might have to go, a lot of times people just print. They press, Command P, Control P, it's printing, and they just go, okay, and that's it. But if you go into the settings in your print driver, you're going to want to look for something like 1:1 or actual size. So,
But wouldn't that print the shape based on what the whole piece of paper would be? Like I could print. If I say print to fit to size, it ends up printing. Or let's say I had your logo, and I can download your logo, for example, and I wanted it to print it any particular dimension. Can't you do that through the software? Otherwise, what I notice, it wants to print the entire page.
Yeah.
It would count the image.
Yeah.
The image isn't just the image. It counts the entire. I just want the particular image to actually be a particular size.
No, I understand exactly what you want, and it's also very, very challenging. You could do some math. One thing you can do is you could check, well, what is my screen resolution? And you can find that out by looking at the screen driver and what, the horizontal and vertical is. And then
how do 3D printers know the correct size to print versus, like, if you want to make a little tiny box,
Well, you specify. Okay, you specify that in the 3D design program. You could say this is 3 inches tall. The problem is really that you're using Microsoft Paint, which has no way to say this is a 4 by 4 inch by 4 inch.
Or anything. If you can give me any other suggestion of something that can print anything in any.
Yeah, almost any other program will let you do this. Photoshop, for instance, Photoshop Elements. Let me see. What's a free program he could use to do this? You can do it by hand by calculating the dots per inch. Let's say it's 96 dots per inch, which is pretty common on a screen. And then, okay, 96 dots per inch, 96 times 4, and then paint in that resolution, right? Gotcha. And then print in that resolution. Or if you find out, oh, my printer's doing 200 dots per inch, you're going to have to do 200 dots per inch. You're going to have to do a calculation, and you'll be doing it larger on the screen so that it will be, when you print at 200 dots per inch, it'll do it right. There are other programs I would look at. There's Paint 3D, might do it. Irfan View, which is free. These are 2 free programs. IRFAN View might do it. Paint.net, I think you can specify it in inches, paint.net. So that's the trick. It's a limitation of MS Paint that you can't just say, I want a 4 inch by 4 inch drawing that I can print at 4 by 4. But because this is common, a lot of programs will do that. And like I said, you could do it by hand, just doing a little math. You've got to get the so basically, let's say your printer is 200 dots per inch and your screen is 96 dots per inch. Roughly speaking, you would do 8 by 8 on the screen, 8 inches by 8 inches, so that you could print it at 200 dots per inch and it would come out 4 by 4. It's a little off because it's not 100 pixels per inch, it's 96, but you get the idea.
Yep.
Okay.
One quick question. Could I ask you something quick?
Sure.
With a USB drive, is there a way to protect the files in case I lose this thing out of my pocket?
Yes. So if you lose, okay, so what you want to do is encrypt it. Look for a free program called VeraCrypt, VeraCrypt. It'll allow you to encrypt the entire USB key. It's called full disk encryption, so that you have to enter a password to open it and see it. And that way, if you lose it, and it's a very, very strong encryption algorithm, nobody will be able to read it. Chris Marquardt, our photo guy, coming up. Maybe he can solve this 4 by 4 problem next. This is something photographers deal with, right? Getting the image to print out.
I didn't really listen. What was the problem?
So he's using, and the problem really is he's using Microsoft Paint, but he wants to draw something on the screen 4 inches by 4 inches and have it print on the printer at 4 inches by 4 inches. But of course, the issue is the screen image is, say, 96 dots per inch, and the printer's doing, say, 300 dots per inch. So,
well, I would leave that up to the printer to do the right thing. The print driver does a good job resizing things. I'd rather paint it bigger and then have it downsized. But
that's right. That's right. That's what I said to him. I said, do some math, divide the pixels per inch of the printer by the pixels per inch of the screen. That will give you a factor of how much bigger than 4 by 4 it has to be. So then you have it 4 by 4 times that factor on the screen. It will then print. But that's a manual way of doing it. And of course, print drivers will do it, and many programs will do it too.
And the print driver will do some sort of interpolation anyway.
That's what I said. If
you want to avoid that, you need a proper RIP, a raster image processor that is very special and gives you full control, but you don't have that level.
Yes, that he said. How do 3D printers do it? Because the software, you say this is a 3-inch tall thing, and then it does all the calculations.
It's a bit like Retina displays, and whatever resolution you throw at them, it'll just look good. Right.
So it's math.
That would be my approach. No fuss.
Yeah, it's math.
Simple enough.
It's time for the photo guy, Chris Marquardt. He is my photo sensei at sensei.photo, a professional photographer in his own right, but he spends a lot of his time helping people, coaching them, helping us be better photographers. Hi, Chris.
Hello, how are you today?
Great to see you. I'm doing wonderfully. Today we want to talk about, as we have been all along in the last few weeks, a particular topic in photography.
Yes, and it's okay. So I've sent you a link that says layers on it, but in fact, this is just a disguised version of what I've been talking about here for ever and ever. Foreground, background, foreground, middle ground, background. So how do you put things in a photo? How do those layers in the photo interact with each other? Are there layers at all? Are they useful? How can you make use of those layers? I mean, this photo that we're looking at right now, it's just a stack of, boxes. There's no layers in there. It's just one level. But as soon as you include things that are in different layers, well, you get depth. And that will do something, right? Layers make depth. So if you have a foreground and a background, then you have two layers, and a lot of photos are that.
So this is a layerless photo, except for there's a pole on the right.
Yeah, this could be a wall that you take a picture of straight on. There's nothing much going on. Even if there's something a bit sticking out, that I wouldn't call that layers really. Okay. But then if you add depth to it, then it becomes more interesting because, well, and it becomes a bit more technical as well, because we're looking at questions like, where do I put focus?
Right.
The moment you have different depths, you want to focus somewhere unless you leave that to the camera. But then I'm a control freak when it comes to that in photography. So I'm really very adamant in deliberately putting focus somewhere. And that's, of course, the question. Do you put it in the foreground or do you put it in the background? Now, the photo we're looking at right now, there's just something in the background pretty much. There's not much depth in that photo, but you could still photograph on the water in the foreground or on the thing in the background.
Yeah, and that's a decision that will change the image completely.
Totally will change the image. If you look at layers in wide angle, they will look different from layers shot with telephoto. So
this is a telephoto shot of
that is a telephoto shot. We're looking at a flamingo in the foreground and some birds in the background. Yeah. And with the telephoto, you have a bit more of a choice to make where you put the focus, because with telephoto, you have what we call more shallow depth of field. There is if the foreground is in focus, the background tends to be out of focus, and vice versa. So in this case, the photographer has, or maybe the camera, but I guess the photographer has probably deliberately chosen that flamingo in the front to be in focus.
Now, what if I set my aperture to f11 so that everything's in focus? Would that be a mistake?
That would not be a mistake, but if you want to guide the attention of the viewer to a specific point, then the focus helps. By the way, there's a third layer in this photo. You see this bit of a fluffy, out of focus green in the front there? Yeah. That's a leaf, so that's a third layer that's very close to the photographer. So that adds a lot of depth to this photo. Also shows an interesting property.
When the photographer leads your eye by using selective focus to say, this is what we're taking a picture of. It's kind of a
And in case of that specific photo, we're also looking at, of course, the color of the flamingo. The birds in the background are kind of in the shade. They're bluish. And the flamingo is, well, pink flamingo colored. So that automatically gets more attention because, well, a flamingo. Red colors do that to you. So, of course, you can play with sizes, foreground, background, because we all know things in the foreground are bigger than things in the background, or they tend to be bigger. In case of this photo, that's one of those forced perspective shots. You have a person that's taller than a lighthouse because of the distances. So foreground, background here makes perfect sense.
He's closer, so he's bigger. So it looks like he's as big as a lighthouse. This is an interesting picture for a lot of reasons.
And both are in focus.
Right. Both are in focus, but one's in silhouette, so it's almost like he's not in focus because you only see the outline of him. It's an interesting shot.
It's interesting because there's a different light situation in the foreground than there's in the background. So it's kind of an interesting mix of different things in this photo.
Yeah. Couple of daisies.
Of course, couple of days, again, foreground is in focus, background is out of focus. We have two of the same, but you will still want to look at the one that is more in focus because our eyes just like looking at things that are in focus.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the portrait mode that you see on many camera phones now.
True. Exactly.
Oh, this is a pretty picture. I like this. Now, everything's in focus here, isn't it?
That's one of the typical things you see in landscape type shots, even though that's more of a seascape, boatscape kind of thing, but there's definitely a landscape component in it.
So we have a couple of fishing boats in the foreground, and there's a ocean in the dock, and then there's some hills in the background and a beautiful sunset sky in the far background. It's beautiful.
And that picture's full of layers, right?
Yeah.
There's the foreground that kind of picks you up, that picks up your eyes, takes you into the photo. Those boats are kind of pointing towards the background. And then there's a middle ground, which is, well, maybe the pier is still part of the foreground, but then there's these rocks in the middle ground. And then there is some islands in the background, sky is part of that. And,
this combines so many techniques that we've talked about. It's got reflections from the water. It's got the golden hour sunset, so the colors are beautiful. It's got those layers. Right. It's really somebody's combined all of your tips into one shot. I like it. I like it. But there's no humans in it, which, a lot of my pictures are like
but there's a human element, right?
Yeah,
there's boats in there, and that is definitely some sort of a human element.
Right.
In landscape photos, you can take those with humans for scale or for context, but of course, and by the way, that's another thing the background does. The background gives context. It adds context to photos. You often see photos, well, if a photo doesn't have a background or if everything is completely out of focus, you probably remember the first time you had a 50mm lens and everything, you would shoot that at 1.8 and throw everything out of focus in the background because that's what you do when you have one of those lenses.
Right.
Then, but that also robs the photo of its context or the subject of its context.
You have to think about it as you're shooting it, I guess, and what you want to say.
Right, and I'm a fan of including a bit of that background, keeping it a bit in focus, or in case of a landscape shot, keeping it in total focus.
Right.
One last shot is the next one. The foreground is usually further down on the photo. It's lower in the photo, right? If you move the camera down, you include more foreground. If you move the camera up, the foreground kind of disappears. With reflections, that kind of turns because what's up higher in the photo and therefore more part of the background gets reflected into the lower part of the photo and becomes part of the foreground. So reflections are also a great way to combine fore and background.
This is another landscape. It's kind of a lake. There's some big boulders in the foreground. You can see the hills in the background, the sky. You can even see a little bit of grass in the corner. That's the most foreground. But yeah, reflections change everything, don't they? Yeah,
they do. They do. I love reflections.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I do too. You've taught us. Now, we are, I guess next week or the week after, we're probably going to review our photo assignment. Chris does this on a regular basis every month. We've been going through the alphabet. We're down to V now, which is vintage. Take a picture illustrating the word, the idea, the concept vintage, upload it to Flickr, submit it to our tech guy group, use the tag TGVintage. Chris will pick a few to talk about. You think next week or the week after? What do you think?
Week after next week.
Okay, give you a couple more weeks to take some vintage photos. Chris Marquardt's at sensei.photo. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Leo.
Nice. We didn't get through all of yours, but here's another nice one.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I've got to remember I have to remember to describe the photo so that people who are listening, which is everybody, know what we're talking about.
Probably didn't do enough of that. Yeah,
it's my job. I got to do that. That's all right.
You would think after doing this for about 16 years.
You're just not used to doing the radio. But Tips from the Top Floor is audio only, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So your podcasts are audio only.
Even though there's more and more video now.
Are you doing more video?
Video. Oh yeah, with the future of photography is video. They're all audio podcasts, but video is an important component.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we were early on that.
I told you, I'm ripping you off. I'm doing
please,
what you did
be
in
my
the beginning.
guest. Take everything.
So, I'm aspiring to do this video live stream kind of thing.
It looks good. I mean, you got the camera, you got the lights, you got it.
Oh, it's exciting.
You got it. You can totally do it. So it's just a matter. Have you seen the R6 or R5 yet? Have you played with those yet?
No, a friend of mine has amazing cameras.
Yeah, Ant just got his review unit for the R6, and I think the R5 is coming. And so he's going to do a review of the both of them. I'm so jealous, but I can't spend another penny on camera gear, unfortunately. So.
I'm still on my DSLR. What I'm looking into is my 5D Mark IV. So it's the most expensive webcam in the world.
Yeah.
But well,
I have one. Actually, my son has it. I lent it to my son with all the lenses because I've been using the Sony.
Is he enjoying it?
Oh yeah.
Or is he looking at the mirrorless ones and is kind of disappointed that it's too heavy?
I gave him a Sony in college. I first gave him the A6000, then I upgraded him to the A7S, which he still has. So he has both. But mostly what he's doing now is drone stuff. He loves his drone stuff. He's really enjoying that. It's
any
fun.
FPV stuff there?
Yeah, I gave him an FPV for Christmas. But he doesn't dare fly it yet. He's doing the simulator. Yeah, you put the visor on and you do the simulator on the computer. He's waiting until he doesn't crash. Because it's an expensive thing to crash.
You need a bunch of spare props and stuff for that.
Yes. Yeah, that's what he said. He said people do FPVs put their own together, and I gave him a starting point, I guess, but he still has to get a lot of pieces and stuff. Do you do that?
No, I fly a drone, but more recreationally and a bit of photography wise, but no acrobatics, no loop-de-loops.
I think he wants to make a living shooting video, and the reason he's interested in FPV is because you can get really interesting, fast shots and stuff that you can't get in.
There's some amazing stuff out there.
For he has a Phantom, but yeah. All right, Chris, have a great week. Stay safe, and see you next week. Sunday. Bye-bye. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. We're continuing on with the calls with Brian in Nashua, New Hampshire. Hello, Brian.
Leo, Happy New Year. Happy 2021 to you.
Happy New Year, Brian. It's great to talk to you.
Last time we spoke, likewise. Last time we spoke, I was bumped by Steve Martin, and that was okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Awesome. Steve feels it's so funny. When he calls in, he says, no, I don't want to take up your time. I know there's people waiting. It's like, come on, Steve. Everybody wants to hear what Steve Martin has to say.
He's fantastic. So the reason why I wanted to call you today is because I was really curious about this. So the other day I was at Walmart, I don't mean to brag, and I saw that they have these tablets called made by ONN, which is a brand name that I'm familiar with them when it comes to like USB cables and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's their house. It's Walmart's house brand. So you don't really know who made it. They just slap ONN on it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then of course Parler got shut down, and I don't want to take this in a political direction, and I won't, but what I'd like to do, I have an iPad that's 10 years old. Yikes. It hasn't gotten an update in like 3 years, and of course the last update slowed it down a lot. And so what I'd like to do is replace my tablet with another tablet, and vis-a-vis the whole Parler shutdown thing, what I'd like to do is to get a non-Google and non-Apple tablet.
Oh, so that you can download the Parler app. I got bad news for you. I don't know if
not necessarily. I know it's offline.
Yeah, I don't know if Parler will ever come back at this point because they've basically been shut down by not just the app stores, but by the back-end providers, including Amazon.
I'd like to not patronize a company that did this.
Okay.
And so I'd like to not get an Apple, and I'd like to not get a Google, and I'd like to not get an Amazon or AWS device. And I was wondering,
good luck.
Exactly.
So good luck. So there's a very famous New York Times journalist who decided to Google her life, and then she decided to de-Amazon her life, and eventually just remove all the tech giants from her life. And her final conclusion was, I can't do anything. I've just removed the internet from my life. So, you know, that's kind of the issue. I mean, you can get a Fire tablet, but that's Amazon. And by the way, it's Android under the hood. Almost all that ONN tablet, almost guaranteed is Android, because no one else makes tablet operating systems. So I think you're kind of out of luck. So this is an interesting question. If you are not happy with big tech, and I would completely understand that point of view, big tech meaning the tech giants, you know, Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, I guess, is kind of medium tech. But these guys, if you're not a fan and you don't want to patronize them, can you actually use the internet? I got to point out, the minute, Brian, you go out on the internet, most of the sites you visit, including my site, are running off Amazon Web Services.
Yep.
So you can't boycott them. That's what she learned, by the way, is you know, if you'd go into your router and say no AWS sites, suddenly the internet gets a lot smaller.
They have like 85% share of the posted services out there, something like that. And I think Oracle has like, what, 5% if that?
Yeah, Oracle would be interesting. Oracle has not made a stand in this regard at all. So maybe, but they don't make a tablet operating systems are tough. So
what about RIM?
RIM made one of the very first tablets and then immediately almost went out of business. So RIM doesn't make any hardware anymore. There is one interesting choice. So there are a couple of companies. There's one called Purism, Purism. I think it's pur.ism. Or I'm sorry, it's puri.sm. And Pine, they make a Pine phone. These are companies that are making, so Pine is at pine64.org. Purism is at pur.ism. These are companies that are making, in fact, I have a Pine phone in front of me right now, that are making Linux-based, and they're primarily just aimed at people who want to protect their privacy. Not merely want to eliminate big tech from their life, because that's going to be pretty hard to do. But they want complete privacy. They don't want to be spied upon by anybody. Now, I've tried the Pine phone. Not ideal. I have an order for Purism's Librem 5 phone. They also make laptops. That order hasn't come. They have a little you know, mini, but I don't think they make tablets yet, although there's no reason you couldn't get a tablet. I would bet they'll do a tablet eventually. There's no reason they couldn't make a tablet based on Linux. So this is kind of your one little out right now. You're going to probably have to buy a phone or a laptop, not a tablet. But by using Linux, you're now using an open source operating system. Both of these companies have a preferred version of Linux that, you know, that they've customized to work with their hardware. But in many cases, the Pine phone, for example, there are many different Linuxes you could run on there. So you could choose a community supported version of Linux that didn't have ties to big tech, that didn't use Amazon. I mean, with some effort, you could do that. I think you're going to run into some difficulties. I did leave out one thing, which is Windows. How do you feel about Microsoft?
My answer to that question is I've bought Macs ever since I was in college in the late 90s. Yeah. That's my answer to that question.
So they, as far as I know, they've done nothing to block Parler or get involved in the politics of this. So that might be another choice. And actually, those are decent tablets. The Surface tablets are pretty good. So that might be another. So either Linux or Windows. But there's nothing else out there, you know.
That's interesting because I was thinking about the Surface, and it seems like Apple has finally come around to the idea that with the Magic Keyboard that they have, I looked into replacing the iPad with something like a keyboard, like a Surface. And so that might be my way to go. And I don't know what apps are available.
I got to warn you, though, if Parler tried to move to Microsoft's Azure, I'm almost certain Microsoft would say no, just like Google would say no. So I don't know if there's going to be any big tech company that's going to be pure in that regard. I think it's going to be be difficult.
I don't think anybody's pure out there, Leo.
No, well, that's right.
Everybody has a little bit of dirt.
That's right.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
My pleasure.
And trying to answer my question.
Yeah, it's a good question, Brian. Thank you. You too. Have a great day. It's quite an interesting question. Can you participate in the internet in the modern world without being, in effect, a customer of these giant tech companies? And I think the answer is no. But it's a shame. It's a shame because I'm not insensitive to the idea that these companies have become way too powerful. And we talked about it at the beginning of the show. However you feel about President Trump or Parler, which was a kind of a refuge for people who were kicked off Twitter, ended up being, unfortunately, a place where a lot of violent, they weren't called tweets, I don't know what they call them, but violent messages were posted advocating murder and death and overthrow and so forth. And I think that's the main reason that these big tech companies have rejected Parler, is the violence advocated there. But it is, however you feel about that, and actually I agree with it, they had to do it, but you might feel a little uncomfortable, and I know many people who are, by the notion these guys have so much power. They're not elected, and yet they're deciding who can speak and who can't. Let me recommend a site for people who are interested in going beyond this, particularly with privacy. It's called privacytools.io. Privacytools.io. I'll put a link in the show notes at techguylabs.com, and you can read all about it. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. It's time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, CES, electric cars, big tech, all of that stuff. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. We get a lot of calls from Canada today, but you can also call from anywhere in the world. Just use Skype out if you're outside the U.S. and Canada. It shouldn't cost you anything. 888-827-5536. Back to the phones we go. Susan is on the line from Minneapolis. Hi, Susan.
Well, hello. How are you doing?
I am great. How are you?
I'm terrific now that I got you.
Yeah, sorry to keep you on hold so long. I appreciate your patience.
Well, no, I don't mind. No, I don't mind that. I'm used to it. The problem is getting through.
Yeah, well, I know. It isn't easy either, is it? Yeah.
Well, when we have landlines,
yes,
it's very easy to work out a system and get through the calls because you knew when to dial.
Oh.
But when you're using iHeartRadio with a delay,
oh yeah,
slow cell phones, it doesn't work.
Yeah, because in theory, the ideal time to call would be as soon as I hang up on a caller. That would open a line. The problem, it's more complicated now because there's a 40-second delay built in. That's, the profanity button. Used to be 7 seconds.
Well, I'm aware of that, yeah.
Yeah, so now you got a 40-second delay. So you're not going to hear me say goodbye to a caller till 40 seconds after I actually do. And then you're right. If you're listening to a stream instead of to a radio station, there's some delay with a radio station because of the satellite, but the stream's even more because it has to encode it and upload it, and you have to download it. And so, yeah, there's there's a significant delay, I guess. Oh, well, sorry.
Anyway.
Yes.
That's not my call. All right. I have a few things here. The first one is free speech. This is my opinion only. Free speech does not entitle you to violence. I mean,
it's not just your opinion; it's the law. You're absolutely right. You can't.
Yeah, and I support Twitter and all of that.
So there's a couple of things. First of all, the First Amendment has nothing to do with it. People often say, "Oh, what about the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment?" That only prevents the government for abridging your speech. And as you said, even then, there are limits on how free your speech is. You can't make seditious speech and stuff like that. Then there's also the issue of private businesses. They can, they can do whatever they want. I have a chat room. If somebody says something we don't like for any reason, we boot them. That's not against the law at all. So these companies are acting within their rights. Here's the bigger question, though, Susan, and you're right. I don't want to make – there's plenty enough political talk on the radio. This is the last place I need to turn into a political show. But the big question is a tech question, which is, you know, somebody like Mark Zuckerberg wields immense power. Because, first of all, he has enough voting shares of Facebook stock. He was very clever. He kept it that no board of directors, nobody can say boo to him. He gets to do whatever he wants. So here's a guy who, with a phenomenal reach of more than 2.5 billion users in countries all over the world, who can do whatever he wants. And so that's a lot of power. And I understand people are a little concerned about that. I really do, you know. That is a tech issue, in my opinion, which is how have we given tech too much power in our lives? And I think that's a reasonable question.
Okay, and I've got two quick things.
Yes.
First one is I got rid of my Epson printer because I'm very mad at them for pulling it, and I don't like the other tech show that's still sponsoring them because they're very radical.
I know. It's kind of funny because, yeah, well, I don't want to. Don't get me started. That's a whole thing, and I don't want to get into that one.
So anyway, I got rid of it, and you may not have one as a sponsor yet, but I need to know, do you have any...
I have no rancor against Epson. I still think they make great printers. I have Epsons at home. But, yeah, I understand. So you're looking for an alternative. Do you want an inkjet or a laser?
Unfortunately, inkjet with a... because I need color and laser.
Yeah, for good color, there's nothing to beat inkjet. Yeah. There are drawbacks to inkjet. The ink is expensive. It'll dry out if you don't use it regularly, et cetera, et cetera. But there's nothing like inkjet color.
Printing and all that good stuff, scanning.
Yeah. I mean, I still think Epson makes the best inkjets, but the next one over is Canon.
That's hot.
Yeah, and I think for a long time I had they've changed the names of the Canon printers. I can't remember what they call them now, but I had a Canon photo printer that was spectacular. So I think they still make excellent inkjet printers, photo printers in particular, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was running towards, and I think that's what I will do, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, in fact, Anthony Tortoriello, who's one of our photographer friends in the chat room, says that actually Canon has better blacks than Epson. So there you go.
Okay, you got a sale.
There you go.
You better nab them well before the price.
Pixma, that's what it was. And they still make the Pixmas. I really like the Pixmas, yeah.
Yeah. All right. My other thing is, and you might not be able to help with this one, I play a lot of card games online with blind users.
Oh, how fun.
And we do play Yahtzee, and it's graphical, so if you have vision, you're okay with it.
Yeah.
But we play a card game called Spades.
I love Spades. That's the best card game.
Yes, it is. We have tournaments. We do the whole thing.
Oh, how fun.
It's really good. But the only one for the blind is text. They don't have a graphical one. And for a visual person, it's not good.
It's ugly.
I don't know why someone can't make a graphical.
They totally could. They totally could. In fact, if they thought about it, they could make a beautiful graphical. The cards would look beautiful and have a speech interface that says, Susan just threw down the Queen of Spades. You know, there's no reason they can't do that. They just, I guess they haven't. Let's urge people to do that. Make it accessible. Then you get a broader audience.
I really wish I hope someone's listening, and I don't know how I can't put up my email address or anything. I know.
Nowadays, it actually would be fairly easy to do because the back ends for all this speech synthesis are available for free. This would be an easy thing to do. You know, they know the data behind the scenes, behind those cards. It's stored as text in effect. They could easily turn that into speech synthesis with very little effort. So if anybody's designing an online card game or an online game of any kind, Yahtzee, doesn't matter, add a button. Just have a button that says, speak it as well as show it. That's all. That's all.
Yeah. Well, if anyone knows Susan Leiker, find me.
Susan.
One thing I noticed, even with the visual Spades games, the dummies are stupid. They can't teach them how to play a zero hand.
Isn't that fun? Oh, yeah. That's really interesting. See, I'm not as good at spades, obviously, as you are, so I find the dummies decent. But
they're really dumb. Their bidding's not bad, but they cannot play a zero.
That's interesting. You know what? I've never played the online games. I've only played them on the phone. So
yeah, I play it all the time online. I play the computer.
They might be smarter. They might be smarter on the phone because they have more horsepower. So they could play a zero game.
I love that game.
I do too. I haven't played it in ages. I used to play it in college a lot. So I will look for a good speaking spades game for you.
Yes, I would love that.
All right, Susan.
I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. I don't have any rancor about, this is normal. Advertisers come, advertisers go. It's completely the way of the world. And I use Epson printers. I'm still very happy with Epson printers. I got nothing against them. Why would I? Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. Lex on the line from Richmond, Virginia. Hello, Lex.
Good afternoon, Leo. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks for calling.
Thank you. I got my wife a laptop for Christmas, a Lenovo Flex 5 14-inch.
Uh-huh.
And we cannot find a setting that will make everything properly viewable.
Is it too big or too small?
It's a little of both. When we get the resolution and text set in settings where everything on the browser looks normal, then Quicken is in mouse font. If we adjust so that Quicken looks good, the browser is
that's so frustrating.
Is that life with laptops, or is there a setting we're overlooking?
Well, it might be life with Quicken.
Okay.
So Windows 10 has a scaling setting.
Yes.
And you found it already, obviously.
We did.
Okay. Yeah. And so you set it to a size that you like. Really, it is, in a way, part of the problem is that laptop screens now are so high resolution.
Yeah.
So it is what normally will happen in an operating system is they'll say, well, obviously we can't do things at one-to-one scale. The icons will be minuscule. The text will be unreadable. In many cases, what they do, ideally for the best results, you would halve or double it, right? You don't do a 1/3 size or 2/3 size. You do it half size or double size. That way you don't get weird artifacts. So if the screen resolution is 200 dots per inch, you might kind of, in normal events, run at 100 dots per inch, half of it, so that everything is at a normal size. And you keep the 200 around for things like photo editing. And so a good operating system, Macintosh does this, a good operating system will say, well, we're going to run at half resolution because the screens are so high resolution, we want you to be able to read them. But when we need the resolution for video playback or photography, we will automatically sense that and do it. Windows is older and a little bit less worldly wise to this. It's the issue is called high DPI. It's the HIDPI issue. And Windows has high DPI settings. They even have scaling settings that'll help you make it a little bit better. The problem is, in this case, Quicken ignores it. And Quicken does its own thing, which is not advisable. Do you have the latest version?
We do.
Yeah. So I'm looking at a Quicken help page. Font size is too large or too small. Menu in Quicken is missing, not working, or appears doubled. To resolve this issue, look under the View menu, verify that use large fonts, in your case, would be checked, right? Because yours are too small, right?
Usually, yeah. So I overlooked that setting. That's helpful.
Yeah, edit preferences, select register from the left panel. Click the fonts button. You can change the font size. You can override the scale. I'll tell you what. I'll put this whole tech note in the show notes so that you can click on the link at techguylabs.com and read the whole thing. It's complicated.
That will make this new Christmas gift a little more fun.
Yeah, I feel bad. But the thing is, you gave her a nice laptop with a really nice screen. And so it's high resolution. That's what you want. Yeah. But you have to be smart enough. The programs have to be smart enough to honor the settings and do it right. And a lot of times this is just the programs haven't caught up. Like the next version will fix it, something like that.
Oh, that's helpful. That gives me somewhere to go check.
Yeah. Thank you, Scooter X, for passing that along. Our chat mod is very quick on the Google.
Thank you, Leo and Scooter.
Yeah, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. It was more of a problem when these high-res screens first came out. It was awful. I don't know if you remember that. But both Windows and macOS have figured out, how to try to handle it properly. Now you just have to make sure that the apps honor the settings. New Orleans on the line. Vincent. Hello, Vincent. Good luck with your Saints today.
Hey, Leo. Hey, I got sort of the same problem your caller had earlier. I want to change my operating system on my Samsung S20s. I've got about 10 of them in my business.
Wow.
And
you must like that phone.
Well, Sprint offered a big, giant promotion right before T-Mobile bought them out, and they gave us a bunch of phones.
Very nice.
So we took them.
Good. Those are great phones. They're very nice. So what's the issue?
Well, it's the political thing. I think all these platforms, when they got involved politically, they kind of take away a little bit of trust. No matter what side of the aisle you're on. You look, I moved all my Gmail business, 120 accounts, over to Proton.
Proton Mail's great. Love Proton Mail. Yeah.
And we got off of AWS, and we're on Oracle.
Nice.
And
so this is a challenge, though, because they're Android. So you don't want to have a Google operating system, I understand. Samsung is taking Android and modifying it dramatically. Android is owned by Google, but is open source. And in fact, there probably are other operating systems. They're still going to be based on Android, though. I got to caution you. But there are going to be other flavors that you could put on your S20. My suggestion is, I don't know off the top of my head what's good, what's not, what's less googly or more googly. Some of these do not have the Google apps. I think that's one of the things you want. And Samsung has in the past done a lot of things to prevent this. But the way to find out what's out there is to go to a website called XDA-Developers.com. XDA-Developers.com, and search for the model. There are many S20 models, so you'll want to get the exact model number from the About This phone and search for it, and see what it's called ROMs. What alternative ROMs are compatible. There may be issues because, as I said in the past, Samsung has blocked this kind of thing. Some phones let you do it, some don't. But if there is a way to do it, it will be in the forums at xda-developers.com.
And I want the phone to go back to just the basics. So being a phone, maybe text and email.
Yeah.
No apps.
Yeah. And so this has always been an issue so open source Android does not actually include the Google apps. And so these third-party, enthusiast-created ROMs often have to figure out some side load method to get the Play Store on there and Google's various apps on there. So you're in luck. If it is possible to flash the ROM and put a different operating system on there, it will still be Android, but it will probably be, in effect, de-Googled Android. Because, again, Android is open source, so it's possible for somebody to create an operating system using Android. And in fact, unless Google approves it and you pay a fee to them, you can't include the Google apps. So if you really want to get out of the Androids, the Google Android sphere, you could still do Android. That's what Amazon did. Amazon is running Android on its Fire tablets, but it's de-Googled. It has Amazon's web store, things like that. But I got to, just like the caller earlier, turning your back on big tech, while I understand why you might want to do it, is going to be hard. They have their tentacles in everything we do. And really, in a way, that's the problem, isn't it? They're well entrenched. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. It's time to talk space with this is the new title of the show. Pyle in Space. Rod Pyle is here.
Oh, my God.
Author of Space 2.0, editor-in-chief at Ad Astra. He's also written a beautiful coffee table book about the Apollo 11 with a foreword by Buzz Aldrin, and very kindly sent it to me, and I was blown away because I'm a fan. You and I, similar age, will never forget man first walking on the moon. What an event that was.
Oh, do your Cronkite for that. Come on.
And there goes. No, I'm not. We both watched Uncle Walter. We're sitting on hold for another 18 hours. Remember, they didn't have a lot of graphics, so he'd had a model of the Saturn V rocket and the Apollo on top of it and all that. And they'd take it apart and they'd move it around and they'd show it. They didn't have a lot of special effects. Poor Uncle Walter just had to sit there. But there's a lot. It's kind of interesting. And I loved your book because you talk about, and I have actually an image of, because it's at the Computer History Museum, that Apollo 11 landing computer, the thing that brought Buzz and Neil down onto Tranquility C and landed it. And, of course, that's the famous computer. But it wasn't the only computer by any means.
It was not, although it's certainly noteworthy for being the first time they, and this is broad, and I realize I'm talking to a computer-centric show, but they kind of essentially had to shrink a UNIVAC down into a briefcase, which was quite an accomplishment.
This was a big deal. You could very much point to it as the beginning of personal computing. I mean, a lot of the techniques they used were later then adapted, and it's no accident that in 1969 they landed on the moon, and in 1976 the first personal computers started shipping, including the one sitting right in front of you, an Altair 8800. This is very similar in some ways. So, yeah, it's no accident.
Well, and you've probably seen there are people making replicas of the Disky and the operating system of the Apollo computer that you can buy. So they have that 1 through 9 plus 0 input key set and verb and noun. So you can. A friend of mine named Martin Lawler actually bought one of these and programmed a countdown till his retirement date in a year and a half, which runs in the background of his office all day. At just like the original, running at a whopping 2 megahertz.
Yeah, they were pretty primitive compared to modern computers.
They sure weren't running Windows, were they?
No.
2,048 erasable words of RAM, which your audience knows better exactly how that translates than I do, 36K words ROM. But as you pointed out, so it's about the equivalent of a TRS-80 back in the day. But as you pointed out, we had another computer living on the Saturn V, which was equally critical, but hardly anybody knows about unless you've gone to look at a Saturn V. There's that ring between the upper stage and the adapter section, which holds the lunar module, which had a cluster of boxes known with the clever name of the instrument unit, which was built by IBM. The ring was 22 feet around, and if you look at it, there's huge boxes. Some the size of shoe boxes, some the size of moderate packing crates, that were a mixture of digital and analog computers, and it was a very conservative design. It was actually descended from the computers, quote unquote, that von Braun had put in the V2 rocket. So it was a more advanced version of that by about 15 years. So it was a combination of digital and analog, had inertial guidance with accelerometers and gyros on a stable platform and so forth. And it basically fired up the rocket when the rocket went on internal control, the Saturn V, before it launched. It controlled the firing sequence of the engines, the first few minutes of flight and getting it all the way into orbit. And it also ran at 2 megahertz with 12,000 instructions per second, for what that's worth. Had its own cooling system with cold gas to keep it from overheating. But what was so amazing is that, to me anyway, during Apollo 12, if you remember that launch, lightning hit the command module twice.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that computer system just went offline. It was done. Most of the power was off. That was gone. And those guys are basically flying blind, as Pete Conrad said, looking at a control panel lit up like a Christmas tree. I think he added some other expletives to that because he was an old salty sailor, but you get the general idea.
Yeah.
So that Saturn V's computer flew that thing all the way into orbit and kept them stable until they were able to reboot and get everything reset, because you had to realign the gyros and everything after that.
Amazing.
So,
really.
A pretty amazing machine. And if you ever get a chance to go to Johnson or Florida and see the Saturn V, I'm pretty sure Florida has it separated. I know in Johnson they have each stage separated just a few feet apart so you can see the inside stuff.
Oh,
and you
that's
can see
cool.
this machine and look
I'd
at
love
this
to do
unit.
that.
It's like, wow, there are computers in there half the size of my car.
And they didn't save it. I mean, after it was done, it fell into the sea, and that was that, right?
Did that?
Were they able to recover those? No, that's something more.
That was the top of the S4B, so that was actually sent out usually into solar orbit.
Yeah.
So not only did it not get recovered, but it
burned up in the sun,
in the ocean.
Yeah. Wow.
Whereas, I mean, Jeff Bezos, you want to talk about an avid collector? You know, this is a slight change of topic, but going and recovering those first stage Saturn V engines out of the Atlantic and refurbishing them. Have you seen those? Any chance?
No. So he went down.
He actually
pulled
pulled
a
them
submersible and went down and got them.
Yeah. Pulled them up and lovingly restored them, and they're all smashed up because they hit the ocean going God knows how fast to terminal velocity. But it's just something he had to do. And
could he tell which rocket went with which launch? I guess he could. They must have been numbered somehow.
Yeah, they had serial numbers. I don't know if they were corroded over or not. I saw them up in Seattle, and they were pretty much a mess. But they did an incredible job. And a few years back, the Kansas Cosmosphere, which is a great little museum in Hutchinson, Kansas, that not enough people get to, had the second crewed Mercury flight, Gus Grissom's capsule, that they had pulled up out of the Atlantic and restored. But because one of your loyal followers asked about it, shall we talk about the SLS?
Yeah, that's another topic. Of course, that's a little more timely. NASA is attempting to put people back on the moon, I guess. And this is a rocket that is designed to launch that moon mission. First of all, when would that be? What is their target for that?
Well, the hope was to have the first crew and the first woman on the moon in 2024. That was under the Trump administration, which was trying to accelerate things.
Yeah.
No, and you have to build EVA suits. We haven't done any of those since the 60s. There's a lot of things. They're still working on the landing system, so that's not sustainable. From
the space station, they wanted to do the first all-female spacewalk, but they didn't have enough suits that fit women for all the women to go out there.
Well, they didn't fit her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was some hue and cry about that, but the astronaut herself came out and said, look, it was just a matter of what components we had up there, because most of these things are between 10 and 25 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And they've only got a limited supply, and they didn't have all of them up there, but they did rectify that.
So they were testing
the Space Launch System.
SLS, they were testing it, and they had to shut it down, didn't they?
Yeah, so it's supposed to be, there's a series of different tests during what they call the green run phase. This was a live fire test of the engines. It's supposed to run for a full 8 minutes, which simulates the full ride into orbit. And that includes a lot of things, powering up, and then the full run at different throttle settings, and critically gimbaling the engines, because the engines are on pivots so they can steer the rocket. And you want to test that under power,
right?
Because you want to make sure they can do their job and steer the rocket properly. You bet. So a lot of the stress is a lot of torque. So it quit after 1 minute, and all we know at this point is that there was an MCF, a major component failure.
These things happen, right?
Which sounds like,
put this in perspective.
Well, they do, and it sounds like a turbo blowing up, because those these are old space shuttle engines, so these are not new. These are probably 10 to 20 years old. They've been reconditioned and checked, but they're older engines. And those turbos spin up. I think one of them spins up to like 70,000 RPM almost instantly. So there's a lot to test. So
Rod Pyle got to get his book, First on the Moon. The Apollo 11 50th anniversary. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Actually had a picture from the book of the Saturn V. It was the fastest one I could find.
There we are.
There you go.
Look at all those reviews.
It's beautiful. Man, is that beautiful. Nice book. Great memory. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Do you think we're gonna actually get to the moon, or is that gonna be, we got other priorities on Earth and people are just gonna go, yeah.
Well, we do, but Jim Bridenstine did something very smart. Now he's leaving by his own. He volunteered to leave after Biden came into power. Jim Bridenstine runs NASA, but he did something very smart, which is he kind of front-loaded these development contracts with Blue Origin and the other companies doing the landers and so forth. So it'd be very expensive to cancel now. My fear is that if we, this is the fourth or so time that we've committed to going back to the moon since Apollo, and I think if we cancel another one, the public and the international partners are going to go, you guys, you're not serious. So I'm hoping they follow through, because even if they don't, Elon's likely to be there with the Starship in 5 to 7 years,
Right.
And the 2021 flight is kind of an uncrewed repeat of Apollo 8. It's a loop the moon and come home thing. And then there's a sequence of flights after.
So
hopefully resulting in
they'll have to do, I guess, another SLS test before they can get the green light to do that launch, I guess.
Yeah, they're talking about maybe moving the rocket to Kennedy from the test stand it was at and just running the test there. You know, they've got a lot of experience with these old space shuttle engines, and most of the lifting, I mean, you need the 4 liquid-fueled engines, but most of the lifting is done by the solid rocket boosters on the sides anyway, and those are pretty foolproof, except for Challenger. But, yeah, at this point, with the amount of work they've done on them. Yeah, it's fun stuff.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'm glad we could talk about it. It's always a pleasure.
Anytime.
Thank you, Rod. Have a great afternoon.
Take care.
Are you going to go out fishing? Are you going to... What are you going to do? It's hot, right? Is it really hot down there?
It's hot, and I'm not a fan of eating fish caught in the marina because they have 3 eyes and 1 fin, you know? So, no, I'll just take a long walk. I think I'm going to go up and walk past. You know where the Star of India is here?
Yeah.
Up on the waterfront. I'm going to go take a walk around the waterfront today.
That's pretty. I love the San Diego waterfront. How nice.
And I love Petaluma. I spent about a month there.
Really?
Once.
I didn't know that.
It was a good time, yeah.
Oh.
I was scouting for a little film. An educational film I was making for Disney, and I ended up basing out of Petaluma for 3 or 4 weeks. It was great.
Yeah, well,
beautiful town.
When we can travel, I'll come to you, or you come to us, or both.
Okay.
Take care, Rod.
You take care.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for letting me do this show. I appreciate it. You're very kind. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Of course, thanks to Professor Laura, our musical director, spinning the discs, digging deep in the library at the iHeartMedia World Headquarters in, where is that? Everywhere. Beautiful Southern California. Thanks also to Kim Schaffer, our phone angel, the unbreakable Kimmy Schaffer, for getting you on the air. Thanks most of all to all of you who listen and call. You also serve who merely sit and listen. On we go with the show. Jerry on the line from Hatfield. Hello, Jerry.
Hi, Leo. I took your advice and contacted the FCC regarding discharging me to use my own equipment.
Yeah, because that's illegal.
That's right. So they said that Dish will contact me. A few days later, I got a call from the Dish Network.
Did they say, we're ever so sorry?
Well, I told the guy I listened to Leo Laporte not to use any weasel words on me.
And how did that work?
Well, what he told me, he says, no, I'm a preferred customer. Instead of getting charged $15 a month, I'm getting charged $7. And I said, it's not the $7. It's the principle of it. And I said, I own my own equipment. He says, we're charging you $7 a month to use a DVR inside your receiver. I said, it's all one unit. He says, that's not the way we see it. Now, as you know, Dish operates on money, not principle.
Well, so when you talk to the FCC, did they say, we're on it and we'll call them and we'll get back to you? Or what did they say?
Well, they said they contacted Dish to have them contact me.
Huh. And all they did is contact you and say, no, we're charging you. Sorry. So this all goes back to a new law that says that satellite and cable providers cannot charge you rental for using equipment you own. Of course, obviously. But it sounds like Dish thinks they've got a loophole. So the trick is to get everybody who's getting charged this fraudulent $7 to call them, or in some cases $15 if they're not preferred customers. I wonder how you get to be that. To call them and say, hey, the law says you can't charge us for this. I'm sure if enough complaints come in, somebody will do something about it. But, you know.
A class action suit.
Yeah, well, that could be, yeah.
It just irks the hell out of me, Leo, that I own it and they're trying to charge me. They said, well, we have receivers that don't have DVRs and they don't get charged.
It's so funny. It's so funny. So they're claiming that is it the DVR capability? They're charging you for the software? What are they claiming?
Yeah, for the capability of using the DVR. Yeah.
Wow. Like that costs them anything.
It can't because it's built into the machine.
Yeah. Well, what can you do? What can you do? They're charging you reasonably for the receiver and all that stuff. That's their gear, but you've attached to it something that you own, and they're still charging you rental for that.
No, it's built in. It's all one unit.
Okay. Well, I don't know what to say, Jerry. You've gone to the higher authority. They didn't seem to do much about it. Some in the chat room said maybe if you wait till 12:01 p.m. on Wednesday, maybe something will change. I doubt it. That's so annoying. But again, this is the problem is, you can make a law, but I don't know how you make it stick. How do you enforce it? It's a good question. I don't know what the answer is. I'm sorry, Jerry. I'm glad you gave us the follow-up anyway. I'm just sorry that it didn't work out any better than that. It is only $7, but still, it's the principle. I agree with you. It's the principle. Right. Yeah, well, they shouldn't. They're not supposed to be able to charge me rental for gear that I own. All right, Jerry. Well, thanks for the update. I appreciate it. I think this is going to be our last call of the day. Jay's on the line from, is it Boston, Massachusetts, or Pennsylvania? It's Massachusetts, I would guess.
Massachusetts.
Yes. It says PA, but I think they mean MA. What can I do for you, Jay?
It's MA.
MA.
Lovely to speak with you. I just enjoy your show.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm really amazed that I'm on.
I'm glad you made it.
There are no particular order, but I have three questions. One,
okay.
Actually, I kind of am curious about this one because I really don't know what to do about it. Are there any U.S.-made computers?
You mean like
made in the
completely made in the USA?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Or is that
even if you could get one that was made in the USA, the components almost certainly would be from all over the world, particularly in China. So I don't know of any computer systems that are not merely assembled in the USA, but include entirely components made in the USA. That seems like that would be a good business for somebody. But I don't think I think it might be so hard that they can't do it. There's a lot of accessories and so forth, phone cases and things. But a whole computer,
Well, I'm just over this past year, I've been doing a lot of thinking with we as a country.
Yeah, no, let's support the country.
We depended on China and a lot of other entities for things, and we probably shouldn't be highly.
I agree. Apple makes its Mac Pro in Texas, but it's assembled in Texas with components assembled all over the world. Okay, here's a couple. So somebody just sent me a link, usamadeproducts.biz, of computers. Digital Storm, privately owned boutique computer manufacturer, high-performance workstations, gaming, and laptop. They customize each machine, and they're assembled in Morgan Hill, California, using components that have been engineered in-house, and sourced globally. But using U.S.-sourced components if available.
Okay.
There's a choice. So that's Digital Storm. I know Falcon Northwest. They're in Medford, Oregon. They also try to use, they're actually a very good company. They try to use U.S. components if they can.
Okay. All right.
So there's a couple to look at.
I will look at those.
I like Falcon's stuff, Falcon Northwest stuff a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't have my own business as such. I do some stuff under the table and whatever, but nothing official. So I don't need anything grandiose, and I don't play a lot of games anymore. So just basic needs.
Well, both these companies let you kind of design from scratch. Okay. So, they tend to look at high. Falcon does a lot of gaming stuff, so they tend to do high end. But I bet you could get something simple.
All right.
Yeah, I'm out of time. I hear the music going on, but I'll give you one more. Give you one more question. How about that? We got a minute left.
Alternative for Windows 365.
You don't want to use Microsoft's Office, but you want an Office tool. How about a free one?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Libre, Libre, office.org. LibreOffice.org. It's compatible with Microsoft, so it reads and writes doc files and all that. It comes with a word processor, spreadsheet, a PowerPoint equivalent. I think it's quite good. LIBRE office.org. It's open source, and I'm a fan, as you know. But that does it for me for this week. I do appreciate your being here. Thanks to all of you. Please stay safe. We want you back next time. I'm Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Have a great Geek Week. Bye-bye. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWiT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on MacBreak Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.